All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Swords. As always, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Jake. Definitely Jake.
Because of copyright reasons, that's all we
That's
can
all
use.
we get. It's fine by me.
I've wanted to use that as an intro for absolutely ages.
You know, I'm amazed since I'm like the tech correspondent at this point and just talk
You
tech.
are the tech correspondent.
I'm amazed you didn't just get like R2-D2 getting zapped.
Oh,
You know, that
would have been... I almost texted you to say like any last minute ideas for an intro sound, and we'll work on it. I'll get back to you.
This whole pod is just R&D.
Or I reckon we should get you the classic scream that's still used to this day.
Oh, the Van Halen scream. Yeah, the Van Halen scream.
Yeah. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's in like loads of films. It's like one sound engineer did it, and then all the other sound engineers just agreed
like, no,
to
nailed
put
it.
Yeah, they just all put it in as a joke now.
I like it. But welcome back. You're back on the pod. You're back in the hot seat, stepping into Jake's giant shoes.
Well,
figuratively speaking.
Figuratively.
I don't want to be rude. I don't want to speak ill of someone who's not here to defend themselves. But Jake, I hate you.
The hot seat is very warm. I imagine he's literally just got out of the chair and you've just like thrown him outside and then dragged someone else in.
The one thing I've learnt with Jake is he's always here.
It's true.
He's always with us spiritually, physically. I always feel like he's touching me.
You might need to talk to someone about that.
I've tried.
Okay.
He's paid off the police.
He owns the police.
Yeah. I mean, well, look, as we know, he's generationally wealthy. You know, he comes from old money. What's that old family called? Like, they're supposedly like the first family. Is it the Rothbergs or something?
The Rothschilds?
Like that? Rothschilds, that's it. I reckon he's related to the Rothschilds.
He'll probably turn around and be like, "Oh, that's my Auntie Carol."
I've got two of them.
What, Auntie Carols
Yeah.
or Rothschilds?
I can't confirm or deny that. No, I mean, if you were to read the comments, this is a council house.
Well, it is. They're right.
I'm on an estate.
Exactly.
In Croydon.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's how I got you here. I lured you in with the beautiful surroundings.
100%. It was either that or the sweets that you offered me.
Yeah. In my van.
Yeah, exactly.
That's probably how we first met.
Probably.
But it was so long ago.
Very, very long ago.
How are you doing, mate?
Doing all right. I can't complain. Life's going good.
Come straight from work?
Pretty much.
How are things in the IT world? Is there anything I should be?
Everything's always on fire. Just everything's always on fire.
Everything?
Is
it a bit like working in like, it's what I imagine being in MI5 is like, right? In the sense of like, we have no idea how often or how close we come to disaster on however many occasions. I feel like working in IT is a bit like that.
Yeah, so I think Transport for London got hacked the other day.
Did they?
Genuinely.
Is this out in the press?
It was out in the press.
Okay.
How we see all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then the government has now decided, because technically we are not part of the European Union, so therefore the government rules around that don't necessarily apply to us anymore. The government have decided that there's new rules for cybersecurity, and they have to that you have to even say when a near miss has happened.
Okay.
But what exactly is a near miss? I can't tell you.
Would it not be an attempted assault on someone's firewall?
Yeah, but if they did that every day...
Did I sound ridiculous?
No, it's spot on. But if they did that...
See, it's easy, this tech lark.
But if someone attacks you and you deflect them and it's fine, right? If that was every time we had to announce that, I'd probably spend half my time being, we've been attacked. Oh, look, we've been attacked again.
Does it genuinely happen that much?
Yeah, it's all the time. Because you've got people that just about and they just spend their time scanning for stuff. And then like because the way it works is that vulnerabilities will get disclosed to the like Microsoft, like whoever owns the system, they'll get disclosed. But there's a bit of a thing where for a while, if you told someone like Microsoft, they wouldn't necessarily deal with it straight away. So they hand over these vulnerabilities to a third party release date who say you've got 60 days and then we're going to announce it publicly. And that basically gives them enough time to fix it, but then also puts them on a clock of you've got to fix it or else it's going to be a wild, and everyone will be able to know you can do X, Y, and Z to attack something. So it's one of these balances of like, deal with it quick enough. There's enough time for you to deal with it without sort of destroying it.
So do you think we shouldn't disclose it when these things are happening?
No, we should.
What, even the near misses?
What is near miss? That's the problem. It's so vague.
I mean, couldn't they reword it to an attempted infiltration or something like that? Would that be more?
They need to.
That feels more vague to me.
But it's exactly like if I get up for work and like I go to a building, like a government building, and I try to go through like the fire escape to get into a building, is that an attempted infiltration? Does the government have to announce that?
Well, it depends what's in that building. If you're working at MI5, someone trying to get in through the fire exit, they probably should alert the government.
Yeah, but it's so vague, and it's so like, what does that mean? It feels like someone who's been like, I know about IT.
I feel that way about most, like when I see technical terms, like, and when I read like the specifications for a computer, I'm like, what does it mean?
A lot of it doesn't mean anything. I'll be honest with you.
And then like I reach out to people like yourself. I think I reached out to Ash, and he was like, well, I know someone in IT. So he ended up asking them, and all I wanted to know was, can this laptop play this game?
I like this idea that he was like, I know someone in IT, and then somehow text me. So I've got 2 people asking me the same question.
No, it was someone different. I can confirm.
But yeah. But no, I'm doing good. The internet is still surviving. It's not on fire. And
do you ever like delve into the dark web?
No.
Do you know how?
Yeah, it's simple. You just have to get a Tor browser, and then the idea, the way that it works is it like does a load of hops, so it hops you through like 5 different computers before you get there.
Okay.
But it's not worth it. It's just not. Don't bother.
Oh no, look, I've seen enough on the internet to know it's not something I want to get involved with.
It's not worth it.
No,
there's not a lot going on anyway.
I've seen like videos of this guy that's like a hacking expert, and he went on this guy's podcast, and I can't remember what the device was, but it was something tiny, and he was like,
Raspberry Pi.
He was like, I can infiltrate and control your entire system with one click of a button right now. And then he demonstrated it, and he was like fucking around with things in the room with this tiny little fit, and it was like, oh no.
Don't worry about it.
That's why when people have like a smart house, I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you're just opening yourself up to be like
the Internet of Things.
And like, apparently people's fridges can transmit information and shit. I thought, your fridge is spying on you?
Yeah. Could you imagine this idea that like someone has a smart house, so like the washing machine, the cooker, the toaster?
I know. And all of it's connected to Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Like my sister just got a washing machine, and it's Bluetooth. She can turn it on when she's not at home.
Yeah. So could you imagine that if someone hooked up through, you got like an Alexa?
Just fucks with your electricity bill. As soon as you leave the house, they just turn everything on.
Turn everything off.
You're like, end of the month, you're like, why have I got a £10,000 electricity bill?
I would try to do something really annoying. So every hour on the hour, I'd start the washing machine.
That feels too obvious. Every other hour. Or no, you'd need a randomising program. I'm sure you could whip something up that just creates some code.
No, you just do it every time that the clock ends up somehow. It gets to like a 6 or a 9.
Or like a grandfather clock, where like every day or every time it hits 12, just everything turns on.
The lights. I love the memes running around of like stuff where it's like they tell like Alexa like there's an intruder, and then it like turns the lights to green, plays what are you doing in my swamp, and then plays Smash Mouth.
I haven't seen that. I'll have to look.
I'll find it and send it to you. It's brilliant. It makes me giggle.
I'm never sure how scared I should be of AI though.
I think we discussed this last time.
I think we discussed a bit of AI, but I don't think we actually discussed whether we should be afraid of it.
Yeah, there's at the moment the problem is a lot of these AI, like the language ones and stuff, are all being trained off of places like Reddit and Twitter.
Okay.
So a lot of them end up just turning into Nazis. Genuinely, the amount of AI.
I actually did read something the other day where it said there was an AI that was designed to be like a humanitarian program, and they decided to just give it the history of humanity, and it came out racist.
Yep.
It was like, yeah, we need to commit genocide.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. That's everything you train off of Twitter and Reddit exclusively will end up like that.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
But that's not AI, that's us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you've got to train the AI. The problem is that all these programs, you have to train them somewhere.
Yeah.
And then, like, other than like scanning, you could probably do it off library books, but then someone will turn around and say, well, you need to do the whole breadth of everything that's going on. And then a lot of the time for language, because language in terms of the way that we talk evolves over time, and the words come in and out and all the rest of it. You can't just train them on books because it would be a particular way of speaking. So they like to train them on like where people are communicating more consistently. And they just end up being piles of crap.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I listened to one guy, I can't remember who it was, but he was like, whether AI is dangerous or not basically depends on the person who develops the AI. If it's a hopeful person that believes in AI, then it's very likely going to have a positive outcome. Whereas if it's someone who's skeptical, it's likely to be negative.
Are you ready for the really fun part?
Go
on. So Twitter, X, whatever, Elon's shit machine.
Twitter,
whatever. It has a thing, I think it's called like Groot. It's or Grot. Yeah, it's Grot. It's 1-0. It's 1-0-T, G-R-O-T-T. So it can do images. And
create them?
It can create images, right? You type in what you want. The problem is Elon has decided in his infinite wisdom that he does not care about copyright.
Right.
So, for example, and you can pretty much Google this, would you like to see what it looks like if Mario snorts cocaine? Because they've done that.
Okay.
Mickey Mouse dressed up as Hitler.
So they're going to get sued by
you can type anything into this thing and it will generate images for you. What about Pikachu holding an AK-47?
But then can you legally argue in that situation if you're Elon? I'm not doing those things. I've just created a tool that people can do those things with.
So I'm
not defending Elon, by the way, just being devil's advocate.
Which I think for a lot of things there's a right of use, and if it's edited enough. The problem is for Mr. Elon, and this is where Nintendo and their evil, because Japan does not have a right of fair use act. Full stop. There is no thing with right of fair use.
Oh, so just everything's copyrighted.
Which is why I was amazed that Power survived, because I thought it was close enough that they were going to get sued the fuck out of, and they didn't, which amazed me.
And what was that?
Power was like this Pokemon clone / mixed with Minecraft sort of thing. So it was like I think Ark mixed with Pokemon, so you could capture like creatures. But they didn't evolve; they were just like set, and then you could make like a base like Ark does.
But they got away with it.
And they got away with it because they never bothered to sue them. Some of them were really close, enough for me to be like, but yeah, it was enough off that border they could say it was a different game. But yeah, they do not care about it. So the second that you start drawing Pikachu on something, they're going to come for you. They will.
Well, the thing is, it's such a big brand as well.
Exactly.
Like Mario. As soon as you said like Mickey Mouse as an artsy, I was like, yeah, you're fucking with dangerous shit here.
Exactly.
Like we've learned recently, you don't fuck with Disney. Like we actually had to take a video down from TikTok because of Disney.
You don't fuck with Disney. You don't fuck with Nintendo.
Yeah.
Like you just leave them alone because then it's easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if they kill your wife.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
I saw some stuff, but I didn't bother to look into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason we got the video was taken down by TikTok. Me and Jake spoke about the case, and we did misspeak a little bit.
Yeah.
But basically, a guy was at Disneyland with his wife. They go out for dinner there. She had severe allergies. They warned the restaurant.
Oh, and then
they still fed her the allergens, and she died. He's suing them for about 50 grand. And they're trying to say because he agreed to their terms and conditions for a Disney Plus trial that he only had for a month, in that terms and conditions, it says any disputes you have with Disney have to be dealt with in arbitration and not in court.
Yep.
And they're now trying to say he can't take them to court because he agreed to those terms and conditions.
But those terms and conditions are always on that. So it's notorious that like people think that they pay for games in general, like especially like live service games. You think you pay for it, and you don't. You don't actually own anything inside that game. So people pump like hundreds of money. So we think even like free to play games.
Well, look at Fortnite.
Yeah.
How much money has that game made? And it's still like, my nephew's obsessed with it.
But in the terms of service, right? Even if you can spend £10,000, right? You can buy every skin, buy everything.
But they still own everything in your account.
In the terms of service, even if you purchase like entry to the game, the only thing you own is the key to get into the game, which they can take away at any stage. You do not own anything inside that game.
So basically, even if they fuck the game up and you want to sue them because they've ruined something you've invested lots of money in, there's fuck all you can do about it.
You don't own it. It's not yours.
That sort of makes sense, though, to a degree, doesn't it? It sort of protects them from any sort of frivolous lawsuits, even just ones as well.
Yeah.
But shit.
It's all shit for corporations.
Yeah, sadly, it's not that shocking that big corporations want to fuck people over.
Nope.
Yeah, and as I heard the other day, GTA made 10 billion. Do you know GTA 5?
Yeah.
Made 10 billion. 10 billion.
To be fair,
one game.
They've kept that going for a long
Still
time.
Going. It's still going. Right. Tell you what, we're 15 minutes in. Shall we hear from Jake?
Yeah, let's do
Jake's not with us. Jake's travelling.
Need a little Jake puppet.
And the last time he was away, I did forget. We've been messaging a lot. So here we go. Right. Guys, this is Jake.
Hi all. So, big question about dynamic pricing. Obviously, with the Oasis gig in the last couple of weeks, it's been a bit of a fiasco. All credit to Paul Heaton, by the way, who came out and said that he would not choose dynamic pricing. He set his prices at £35 a ticket for standing tickets. He said that he could still make a decent profit on that. He's still going to make a lot of money off this tour, and he doesn't want to rip off fans in the process. But as for the Oasis thing, I think it is a joke. I think Ticketmaster, I always hate when any company uses Ticketmaster. You know, I remember a couple of years ago that Cure tried to go on tour, and they had this issue where they set their prices, they limited it, and then Ticketmaster added a bunch of fees so that the price ends up being boosted anyway. But I just wonder, would it change your opinion, is my question to you, of an artist if their ticket prices were dynamically priced? So I don't know whether it's the standard and artists have to opt out, or whether artists actively choose to opt in. But what we do know is that it's up to the artist. The artist can say yes or no to dynamic pricing. So would it change your opinion on it? And obviously further to that as well, I'd just like to add my opinion on the fact that this was probably the single most anticipated gig in UK history. So for this, I'm not an IT expert, but it feels like for the service to not be able to handle that kind of volume,
sent us a 5 minute
just a bit of a joke. People getting through in front of the queue and then getting kicked out. And then the ones that did make it all the way through found that because of the high demand, which there was always going to be quote-unquote high demand, they're getting charged like £400 a ticket for a £150 ticket, which is already ludicrously expensive, by the way. We should address that. £150 a ticket is a lot of money, and I think all of us would agree that the artist, I mean, okay, in this case, Oasis, for me, are particularly unique, but the artist would have to be really worth it to charge £150. So that, you know, and Oasis came out and said that's the base price. That ended up not being the case. It ended up being dynamically priced. So people going in already thinking 150, that's a lot of money, and the ones that do finally get through, it's like 350, 400 pounds. I think it's an absolute joke. But yeah, that's my question anyway, after a lot of opinion. Would it change your opinion of an artist if there was an artist that you really loved, for example, Big Daddy Big? Well, I don't know who Big Daddy Big loves, but for Andrew, you know, you're a massive fan of Foo Fighters and Dave Grohl. If you found out Dave Grohl had announced a massive tour, it was hotly anticipated. Let's say Foos hadn't toured for like 20 years. It's a big reunion tour, hugely anticipated.
God, they'd be in their 80s.
And they say, okay,
they'd have no one
like
left.
Whatever, £100 a ticket.
Wheelchairs.
And then they turn out to be dynamically priced. Would that make you think less of them as an artist and just in general?
I think what I would suggest is we address the question and then we can discuss the Oasis stuff if you like.
So I think the first part is, because he said about my ears perked up in the middle where he said about IT and the people getting kicked out the queue. So I do feel for him. So to a certain degree, there is a thing called DDoSing, which is denial of service attack. And basically they just go, people will just throw an infinite amount of packets at a server and it will knock the server over, and that would kick people out. So if you've got hundreds of millions of people trying to log into the same server, just boot people, and it's there's not a lot they can do.
Could you not argue a company of their size and announcing a tour like this, they should have been better prepared? or have a better capability of dealing with traffic.
DDoSing is one of those things that you basically can't stop.
So there's no level of capacity you could have for your website to cope with traffic.
You can, to a certain degree, that you can get certain things in Microsoft where they can basically start spinning up servers.
Look, I'm not in IT. We know this.
Yeah.
Is it not to do with servers? Like, then the more servers you have, the more capacity you have, and
there's sort of a limit to a certain degree, because then the internet pipe that goes to the servers can only be so big.
Right. Okay.
And then if you get too many, even if they keep spinning, how many servers do you want to spin up? Are they going to have 100,000 servers suddenly spin up? Because
don't Google and Amazon and big companies like that. They own server space that they rent out to people, don't they? They have a hosting business.
But that's very expensive to have, and
I know, like the cooling expense, the electricity cost for the cooling of them. It's all mental.
There is a certain level of you can do that, but then to have those capabilities available to you at all times,
the cost is,
and then it only takes like a couple of hackers, because you can do like bot farms and stuff, and you can send massive amount of data. If people are already swarming it, and then hackers are going, we're going to bring down the website, and then they swarm it as well. To a certain degree, it's like it's a bit like out of Loki season 2, the end of it. Have you not seen it?
I'm literally on the last couple of episodes. I haven't watched it for a bit, so no, you can't do that. I'm afraid
I won't do that example. It's just
I think I roughly know what's going to happen, but I don't know at the same time.
There's a certain amount of stuff you can pump into it, and you can make it bigger and bigger and bigger, but like it will just get eaten more and more, so things will fall over, and as you're bringing those things up, servers will still fall over and people get dropped out. So
from what you're saying, I think then it sounds like it shouldn't have ever been put on Ticketmaster. The better way to have done it would have been, you can only buy tickets if you sign up our website. We'll then send you a link to something, and then you control the amount of people.
Yeah. So
perhaps do a lottery of the people that have subscribed.
I think the big thing around dynamic pricing and even down to that, the Ticketmaster website falling over, is it's fundamentally a monopoly. Right, and that's what makes the problem, because like if there was 5 or 6 places you could buy tickets for this tour,
right, okay, so spread it amongst different
companies.
The thing is, that's probably how, because apparently Oasis, just off of that ticket sales, they've made 200 million.
Yeah,
apparently. So then when you add merch, they'll have a cut of the venues of like what they're making. They would have made obscene money.
But it doesn't. But it means what. The question becomes, right, so is the Oasis like tour, the reunion, the tour, for the fans to enjoy the Oasis music and for them to like tour again, or is it that a few of them have basically run out of cash and they want a cash grab?
The thing is, I actually don't, well, perhaps, I think the only one out of them, the only person who doesn't need money out of all of them involved is probably Noel Gallagher, because he owns all the song rights. He said on television a few years ago, maybe even more than a few years ago now, I think he was on Graham Norton or something, and they asked him about Liam, and they were like, he's touring again now, how do you feel about that? Like, he's singing Oasis songs, and he was like, if I'd have known how much money I was going to make letting him perform those songs, I'd have let him do it a long time ago. And yeah, like, I've been to see Noel Gallagher. He was brilliant. He sang Wonderwall. What's the song for Manchester? It's gone out. You won't even know. You're not an Oasis fan, are you?
I'm a music fan.
Don't Look Back in Anger. That's the one. And like, it was fantastic. And like, he is an absolute tosser. Like, whenever I see him on anything, I'm like, you are an arrogant wanker. But having watched him, I remember saying to Jake, if I got to go on stage any night I ever want, by the way, he could put a show on any day, anywhere, people are going to turn up. And I could at any point stop singing any of my songs and the crowd will just do it for me. And he did it like during Wonderwall. I think for like nearly half of it, he wasn't even singing. And he just gets to stand there, strumming his guitar and enjoy the atmosphere. And it's like, I'd probably be a bit arrogant if I got to enjoy that.
I just think it just depends on what the purpose is. So like, the problem is do you care about the fans that you're seeing? Are you giving everyone the opportunity to actually go see it?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because like, they've not, like, to my knowledge, I don't know if they've even been in a room together yet.
Yeah.
So, like, we don't actually know, are they like mates again? Have they reconciled, or is this just they're coming back together to perform for a bit?
I'm looking
they're going
forward.
to tolerate one of each other. Do you know what I mean?
I'm looking forward to the first halftime break that gets brought in and it suddenly gets in and then they turn around and say, yeah, that's it. The tour's over. They've had an argument backstage and that's it.
Ticketmaster have had to add a guarantee
Yeah.
to everyone's tickets that if at any point shows get cancelled, you will get your money back.
Bloody well hope so. At 450 quid of ticket.
Because, I mean, yeah. But to Jake's question of like, would you judge an artist that you're really into if they did it?
I think it depends on it definitely taints. It's a bad feel because
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't like the pricing, like Jake said, of music. And to be honest, most shows in anything you want to go to now, it's overpriced in my opinion. And like, we wanted to go see Tenacious D this year.
Yeah.
And to go see them at Brighton, I think again it was like 150 quid. And it was like, I love Tenacious D, but I'm going to enjoy maybe 2 or 3 songs. I'm not paying 150 quid for that.
Yeah.
And like even Foo Fighters, we looked to go. Me, Ash, and Jake wanted to go see them at Wembley, but again, you were looking at a minimum of 150 quid. And I have a real issue with that. I don't think they need to charge that.
Yeah, I think if they set a price out, right? I think for me personally, if they set a price out, I think that regardless of whether or not that becomes a decision for you as the consumer of whether or not you find the value.
Yeah.
When they set a price out and then you get to the front of the queue and the price is now 3 times bigger, it's predatory because it's
totally because
that
you've got no choice. This is the only place you can go.
Yeah, it's a monopoly.
Everywhere else that you might be able to get a ticket, it's going to be resale and it's going to be even more.
And they're going to know that they've already whacked it on, so they're going to whack it onto that value. And also, it's that fear of missing out, right? If you looked at a price and it said it's 450 quid, you go, well, I'm not even going to get involved, right?
No.
But if you've gone through the queue, you've put up the time, you've put and we all know how these work. You put the timer on, you're jumping in the queue at exactly the time that the website's going to have the tickets available. You've gone through the process, it's sitting there waiting, and then the price comes up at 450 value, and they've normally got a timer on them as well to be like, you've got 10 minutes to make this purchase.
Yeah.
So it's all this pressure sales where you have to make that slap decision right
and
now. You know
you're
you're
most likely just going to hit pay, aren't
exactly. So it's predatory, and at the end of the day, this is a thing in which you have to turn around. You have to look at your government and say, why is this legal to do?
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
And it's fundamentally what it comes down to. So
well, apparently the EU are looking into it now, aren't they?
You know, it's for me, 100%. If I'm looking at a band and then they're doing this dynamic pricing, then
the real shout. I mean, look, me and Leanne queued for, I think it was last Saturday, I think, at time of recording, and we spent 4 hours just getting into the website. We then click on the date we're interested in. You then have to queue for that date. And then we queued for that and we were like 100,000th in the queue for that or something. And then we get to number 1 and then it goes, cool, we're going to redirect you. And we get kicked out.
Yeah.
So we'd spent maybe about nearly 6, and we were still for about an hour afterwards, like hitting refresh, trying to get back in. And it would reload the page and it would be like queue again. Yeah. And you'd queue again and then it just wouldn't do anything and you would just had to give up.
It's a shit experience, fundamentally.
Yeah.
I wonder on the dynamic, does it work both ways? So if
what if they're not selling?
So if they don't sell,
no, of course they're not.
Exactly.
That's not what they're going to do.
So then it's for no benefit. There is no benefit for the consumer. It's purely for a load of rich people want to pad their pockets a bit and they want to take it out. And at the end of the day, I think that...
And they would have known, I don't know about Oasis, but Ticketmaster going in that they were going to do that.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? I think I was about to say in their defence, not in their defence, but they did it on the standing tickets. I don't think they did it for all tickets, if that makes sense, because apparently even if you were in the nosebleeds, because that's what we were hoping for, that we might get tickets, they were like 400 quid already. And it's like, and one of the things that's really pissing me off is just how priced out people are of these things. And then you listen to podcasts and you see videos online of people being like, oh, I've got tickets to 4 of the shows. And it's like it's bullshit that someone, just because they have a bit of money, can afford to just walk into these things.
It's one of those where like either they have to go through like the ballot process, right, where you apply for a load of tickets and then you get it, whether or not you get it, and then if there's any left over, they get sold. But you're never going to get through that, right? Like, it also sets a really bad precedent for me, because what happens if they start doing this for stuff like the World Cup like for football? What happens if they do it for, you know, other events like the Olympics?
It is already happening, isn't it?
You know,
just buy ticket touts.
You know, I think that's one thing. You get a ticket tout that's farming it on the side. But if you don't have ballots for like the World Cup, the Olympics, all these other events, like big events in which
I think a ballot lottery would be the most fair way to dish it out, I think, personally.
But then that's where you're going, well, we want to be fair and we want to give everyone the opportunity. And
that is the fairest way because it's indiscriminate then.
But that's not what they're doing because they've conscientiously gone, we want to make as much, we want to milk this for as much money as possible.
Think, to get to what you were saying, what's it for? I think it is for money. I don't think you can argue anything else. Do I think they don't care about their fans? No, I don't think that. But I think they've probably gone into it not as savvy as they should have been. I'm sure it was in the paperwork somewhere that they were going to use dynamic pricing. I'm being very generous, by the way, that they weren't aware, because in the middle of the day they released a social media message that was like, don't buy any tickets from resale sites. Any tickets being sold on resale sites will be immediately cancelled. So you'll just be wasting your money. You can pay at face value prices at Ticketmaster, and had a link, and it was like, guys, what are you doing?
There's no percentage when Oasis sat down, and someone would have sat down and had negotiations, and it wouldn't just been with Ticketmaster, it would have been X, Y, and Z.
Their lawyers would have all been involved.
Involved. There is no shot that of the amount of people probably scrutinised over this for a long time that they didn't come up with the fact of, by the way, is it dynamic or is it stationary? And then someone at Ticketmaster didn't go, we've seen on average when you have dynamic, you will make 2, 3, 4 times more money than if you have it at the standard rate, and it will adapt to what the pricing is, and everyone's going to want to buy this. There's no shot no one's done that. And you probably find Ticketmaster they probably take a lower percentage on dynamic pricing because
they're still going to make more.
They'll make more because if the price goes up by twice, they can half the amount of percentage they get per ticket, so that Oasis get more, but they still get their kick in. So if it goes up by 3 and they knock off 5%, and it's now instead of 15% they get 10%, they're still making like
the problem
X
is though, and then on top of that, right, you would see people paying £400 per seat, and then you go to pay, and there's an extra £150, and it went up based on how much you were paying for your seat, the fees. Yeah,
because it's all percentages.
Yeah, and you were like £150 in fees, and you were like, "What are you doing? I'm already." They were paying £1,300.
Yeah,
and you were,
you know,
insane.
At no point, no one's gone, What does this mean for the people that are purchasing our tickets? And
like, I can't remember. I read something earlier. They were saying about Taylor Swift, and I forgotten whether it was she did or didn't use it. I think it was she didn't, that she refused dynamic pricing for her Eras tour. And then and she doesn't publicise this, but it got leaked that every city she goes to, she donates a ridiculous amount of money to the local food banks and things like that. And look, I know she's making an obscene amount of money, but who else is doing that? Do you know what I mean?
It's one of those where she's making an obscene amount of money. She is almost guaranteed to not be paying the full whack of tax as well, right? There's probably
I know in America they have huge tax breaks for charitable donations.
So the fact that she's like
she'll get to offset whatever she's given out.
Exactly. So it's one of those where it's like, oh wow,
like me and Jake were sort of discussing this on another episode of because we talked about Mr. Beast. And I don't know how much you're aware of what's going on with him, but there's
we do not want to talk about that.
No, well, me and Jake talked about a fair amount of it, and I'm happy to discuss it again. But of the sense that, what were we just talking about? I've lost my train of thought.
Tax breaks.
Oh yeah, we were talking about the fact people that are really publicly charitable tend to be scummy people. And I'm sort of cool with people publicly being charitable, because people are still getting help at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? I can live with it because good stuff's happening.
The problem that I have fundamentally with it is, it's great that they're being charitable, but I'd rather you just paid your taxes, because then the money can be distributed to the place it needs to go to, instead of the place that
Do you trust government to distribute it though?
Yeah, but at least then they can't turn around and be like, we haven't got the money. At the end of the day, if that finance comes in that way, whereas basically the billionaires are deciding where their money goes to, and then a lot of these schemes might be close to heart.
Yeah, and they don't technically hold any of it most of the time, do they? It's a corporation that they're a director of, and shit like that because corporations pay less tax than a individual.
So it becomes one of these where you are deciding where that money goes. Whereas if you just paid taxes, it would then go to the government, and then and I know there's the whole thing of the government and whatever else, but like, isn't that literally the job of them? You know,
well,
really.
But the thing is, then you're in an argument of, so who's at fault for that? Is it the government not like closing these loopholes and going after people for money, or is it the people just looking out for themselves?
Yeah, and they'll find another way.
Do you know what I mean?
They'll find another way to have
Well,
a
yeah,
tax
of course
break.
they will.
There's always the way, but don't know.
Yeah, it's fucked.
It's all fucked.
But yeah, no, I think it's really sad that this should have been just a really positive thing. Obviously people were going to miss out. That's not what the problem is. It's the way they've dealt with it. And
I like the way I think it was Peter Kay when because he's got that 4-year stint.
The residency is it at when
O2.
O2, that's
O2. It. And like I think it was something like the first batch came out, and then obviously ticket started picking it up, and he basically came out and was like, "Yeah, don't worry about that. I'm here for like the next 4 years.
Yeah,
like there's
no
plenty of
tickets.
You know, at least then it's like you get it right. Like there is a set price, and like I think it was like 80 quid or something like that for a ticket.
Yeah.
But because he's doing, and it is a long old stint that he's doing, but he's doing that because he wants everyone who wants to see it to have the opportunity.
A chance to before he stops forever.
And obviously you can't have everyone because it's an £80 thing, so not everyone can afford that. But at least like someone can save up for it.
It's within the realms of like, I wouldn't pay 80 quid to go see Peter Kay if I'm being honest.
I think me and Jake went. So.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Jake shows up to the opening of an envelope, to be honest with you. I'm just shocked he paid 80 quid to see Peter Kay.
I think I went with his parents, so they probably paid it.
Yeah, true. The Rothschilds again.
Yeah. But at least then, like, you know where you stand, and like you can save up that money, and you can have that money and pay
and
for it.
you've got the time to save up for it.
Exactly. And I don't expect everyone.
How many people would have gone into debt?
Yeah.
To go and see Oasis.
The amount of people that are like, I would literally sell my car, find $2,000.
I mean, that's ridiculous though. Like, you should have some level of self-control. Like, and I get it. Like, I can imagine being there. I think their first show's in Cardiff. On the first night in Cardiff, part of the crowd that gets to see them for the first time in 15 years, I'm sure the roof will go off and it will be an amazing atmosphere.
I hope you're part of the crowd for Cardiff, because there's a good chance they're the only crowd that gets to see them.
Yeah, can you imagine they end up just having a punch up on stage?
Could you imagine, like, even better than that, right? That they don't even end up on stage. They have a bust up as they're getting ready, right, to backstage. Go out. Then they punch each other up, and then they have to make the announcement in the stadium of, by the way, the show has just been cancelled. And because you've been in the stadium now, your ticket, you've had your experience, and your ticket, you can't get a refund.
Do you know the other dodgy thing that's been going on around this? And this isn't Oasis's fault. Hotels in the areas they're performing have had system issues where all their bookings have been cancelled on those dates, and so they then rebooked people at much higher prices.
Yeah. Corporations be like that.
Dodgy big companies.
All that.
Fuck them. Right, I'm trying to think of what we should talk about. We did Jake's message. Have you heard about the people stranded in space?
I think I've picked up on that in the last couple of days. They're not coming back to like February.
They were meant to be up there 8 days.
But isn't it this is another to be back on the whole big corporation like bang.
Oh yeah.
It's not like it's like astronauts like NASA or someone sent them. No, it's like some
NASA's redundant now, to be honest with you. They don't do anything.
But they're not like a government body that's gone. This is like some rich people.
It's Boeing.
Yeah, bought tickets from Boeing to go to space, and then they've got trapped in space now. And then I saw something. I think
they're proper astronauts.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they're proper astronauts.
Oh, okay. I heard that it was
rich people. This is they're genuine astronauts. They've been up to space multiple times each over the years. And they were meant to be going up for something. It was undisclosed. And then when they were trying to attach to the space station, there was some sort of complication. They're on the space station now.
Yeah.
But it was meant to last 8 days. They've been there 2 months already. But apparently they're not alone.
Yeah, because there's people that live on the space station.
Yeah, but you don't really hear about it.
But the space station is always manned.
Because like everyone's been making, like, and even Jake, to be honest with you, has been making quite and there's bits of it I think are really bad, right? But like it was sort of being made out like they could die at any moment, and like technically that's not inaccurate because they're in space. Like shit goes wrong in space.
Does this have the feeling? Does this just have the feeling of the Titan all over again?
The Titan?
Do you not remember the Titan, the submersible that went to the Titanic?
Oh, that one.
It just has that feeling. I'm waiting for him to say they've got like an Xbox
you
controller.
say that. There was a thing on Twitter yesterday of like, apparently there's like weird pulsing noises.
Yeah, I was going to say
and I was
that.
like, oh, fuck, this doesn't sound good. Because at first I wasn't sure if they were on the space station, and everyone was like acting like they were like on death's door sort of thing. And then I listened to Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about it. He was like, there's other people up there. They've got shitloads of food. They've all been up there for ages before.
Yeah, because
like,
the space station's always manned. So there's
they're
always
like,
someone up there.
They're like, these people are trained for it. Like, they're cool. Like, yeah, it's not ideal. They shouldn't be up there that long, but
it can't be like it's one of those things, right? If it was that much of a weirdo story where like they're actually in danger, it would be like from all you would hear about, a bit like the Titan when that disappeared.
Yeah.
It's all you would hear about. But the fact that it's sort of a little bit of occasional background noise that it pops up and then disappears.
And also, like, Matt Damon survived Mars. Do you know?
Oh yes, that biopic, the documentary.
I fucking love that film. I'm not gonna lie.
I've not seen it.
Shame on you.
I don't really want to watch a man who eats potatoes made out of his own feces.
Well, they're grown in feces. It's not
Right.
made out of shit.
Well, it grows in it, therefore it's made out of it. Like
Not really.
well, it's fertilizer that the potato absorbs, so your shit is absorbed
it
from the potato.
absorbs some of the nutrients.
Yeah, from your
What
shit.
do you think your potatoes are grown in, mate?
Not my shit.
No, but
Someone
other shit.
else's. Not mine.
Well, he would have been using other people's for a short period, but there was only so much of that left. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of those. It's on a list of people. The problem is I saw him in Interstellar, and I know how it ends because he's obviously going to kill whoever comes to rescue him. Because they are clearly the same film, just like from the other side.
It's weird. They have weirdly similar outfits as well.
So it's like it's just the same film.
Because I think The Martian came out first, and then I saw Interstellar, and again, one of my favourite films is Interstellar.
Yeah.
And so, like, you see him, I'm like, oh, Matt Damon's here. He's a nice astronaut. And then, he tries to kill him. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So Matt Damon's a bad guy.
Maybe it's when they talk about like the opposites, it's like if you have like a really bad day, and it's like it's him on a bad day. To be fair, if that was the second time I was trapped in space, I'd probably try and kill someone too.
Well, to be honest with you, it's to fool me once. You went up there once, it went wrong. Why did you go up again?
The only problem with Interstellar, and I love that movie, I think it's a really good movie. One, the Christopher Nolan thing of like he puts the music way too high, so I have to watch it with subtitles.
Sound equilibrium is so fucked. Like whenever I watch it, you have to keep turning it up and down.
I know. I just put subtititles on.
Whenever anyone's speaking, I can't hear them, so I have to turn it up, and then all of a sudden you get a Hans Zimmer. Boom! Motherfucker.
Neighbours banging on the door. Can you stop watching that film?
And quite often it's a film that I might put on to fall asleep to. And then like if the sound's up too loud, suddenly you're like shitted into being awake.
So that's the one thing that annoys me. And then the other one is the main character's accent.
Why?
It just jars me. There's something about it.
Matthew McConaughey?
It just really jars me.
It's Matthew McConaughey.
I like him, but for some reason in that film, it just really jars me.
I just think it's a Matthew McConaughey voice. I might have to, when I rewatch it, try and pay attention to his voice.
There's something about him, and I
think he's just doing his voice. I don't think I've ever heard Matthew McConaughey do an accent.
But there's something about that accent being like a scientist that really annoys me. Like it just doesn't work.
Yeah, okay. I can understand that it doesn't sound intelligent.
And I'm just like, I can't believe you. You're going to tell me that like corn is made by Martians. And he's famous
for being the cool, good-looking guy, and all of a sudden you're like supposed to believe he's some hot shit pilot that's also a scientist.
But it is a very good movie. Yeah. I like them.
And like, despite the sound being fucked up, I do love the music in it as well. So yeah.
The other one I watched recently that I loved is Oppenheimer. I absolutely love that film.
I haven't seen that yet.
So good. It is a long watch, and you do.
I've heard it's boring as fuck. Like it's not a film where a lot happens. Didn't they actually blow up a nuclear bomb to film it? Am I right in thinking that?
I don't know. No, they definitely didn't.
Okay.
They definitely didn't, because that would probably be a war crime at this point.
Well, if you just did it in like a desert somewhere.
There's other ways you can make a fireball without doing an actual nuclear bomb.
If you want to go for accuracy.
Yeah, but that's how that...
Well, America's got a lot of nukes. They can spare one for a Christopher Nolan film.
Yeah, but when you're going for accuracy, that's how actors shoot other actors on set.
No, that's just poor double checking.
If you're walking around a nuclear bomb, I don't know how many times you check it. I'm not going anywhere near it.
Do you know what? I was listening to someone talk about the Alec Baldwin thing the other day, and they were sort of saying it was Quentin Tarantino actually, and he actually said Alec Baldwin, in his opinion, is as much at fault as the person who loaded the gun because he should have checked it.
Yeah.
Because he was like, you should do a pot shot to like check if it's hot. Do you know what I mean? So whether you can trust the gun. He was like, if you're going to wield a gun, that's got ammunition in it, you bear a responsibility.
100%.
I don't know. I thought it was a bit harsh. Like if I'm on set and someone handed me a gun, I would have asked. I'd have been like, "Is this cool?"
I think it's the same principle, right? So if you're doing, so say like Gladiator, and they're running around with the swords, right?
Yeah.
And he hands you a sword, and it can be like a big, heavy, proper metal sword. Should you be safe with that sword, or should you just go to hack someone's head off because it's acting?
Yeah, but I think that's different.
Why?
Because if I'm under the impression my gun has dead ammunition in it, that it's going to make a bang, but nothing's going to happen, I would feel safer doing that than trying to hit someone with a real sword.
I think it's very easy to turn around and be like, well, it's not my fault, someone else loaded it. But it's like, yeah, but you still wield the thing. Like there should be a thing to like just double check. Like it doesn't take a lot to double check.
No, I guess so.
For the safety of someone else.
Just felt a bit harsh.
I think there's,
but
you can't blame
the only
him 100%.
thing that went through my head that was like, it must happen enough on the set for Tarantino to think it's something an actor should do.
It happens loads.
Do you know what I mean?
And there's a few things in terms
I just would have assumed there's a person on set that's responsible. I'm sure there is. Like there'll be a gun person on set that's like checking it, but I feel like that person's more responsible. I thought it was harsh to say they were like equally responsible. I can understand there's some responsibility on the actor to at least double check, like, we cool?
Yeah, the problem
but if I turned to the guy and went, are we cool? And then shoot the person and they die, I still don't think I'm a fool.
Yeah, the problem is you got to remember a lot of these, they're like, there's certain rules for like...
And like, look, someone died, so like, that's horrific. It shouldn't happen.
But you do have to remember, there's certain union rules. So I think there's something like, when you work on a set, if you're the film production, they have to pay you, and you're meant to have certain breaks, and if they skip like a meal break, they then have to pay you. But the problem is the rules were set up back in like the 50s, and it was meant to be horrendously expensive. But now, because they've never moved it, it's cheaper for them to pay the extra that you need to keep you working and then just make you work 16-hour days. So when you're doing stuff like that and you've got someone who's probably running around, if you've got like a big set of load of guns who's running around doing all these different guns all the time, it's just that odd of like how
so then
accurate
it's the film company's fault, isn't it?
It always comes back to them. But like for
it's
everyone,
the big corporation.
It's always the big corporation.
I feel like that's just what we keep coming back to. It's the root to all evil.
100%.
Big corporations. But at the same time, you sort of need big corporations because they provide us with some of them provide us with valuable stuff.
Yeah,
and stuff we need.
I just think they need to be. This is where the government kicks in, and they should be keeping them in check so that they're not just taking advantage of a situation because they have the money and they know you need it. And that's the problem. That's the balance that you've always got to have.
Yeah, and like, I listen to people snagging off American politics because like big corporations can buy politicians, and it's like, yeah, but that happens here.
Yeah, but it's way worse.
No, but do you know what's worse about it? They're selling themselves really cheap. Yeah. Because there's like limits in what we allow in our election spending and our what's the word when they're like running an election campaign? That's it. When they're doing that, there's limits to how much they're allowed to spend. So it means Rishi Sunak, when he's Prime Minister, has a price tag of 250 grand, and you get a monthly meeting with the Prime Minister. Yeah, and it's like, what? The man who runs our country, you can have a meeting with him every month for as long as he's Prime Minister for 250 grand. I think that's mental.
It is mental, but like, I think when they were doing the bloody Trump ones and he was doing the recent rally or whatever else, they had like medicine things that were just being like, the Trump was talking and then next to it on the screen was like, get your Viagra or something. Like, you know what I mean?
That's
like, just
because to run for president, you need to have like at least $1 billion behind you in funds.
It's just, the problem is, it's
so
just,
by the time you get to be president, you're so fucking compromised.
Yeah, you are literally being, because America is just a corporation at this point.
Like, I feel like we're a bit better in this country, but I just don't. I actually think the simplest way to deal with it is just be like, no contributions whatsoever. You can't have outside investment to run for office.
Yeah, I don't even know if that would work, because then you'd end up with the people that have money would be the only ones who could afford to run, if you see what I mean.
Maybe maybe have to cap it really low.
I think it's
maybe
more,
we go lower.
I think it's more. It's got to be open comms. So like the money coming in has to be advertised in a way that you can have checks and balances, so you know exactly how much is coming in.
Technically, the information is out there. We just don't get given it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think we should just, like, every year there should be like, right, here's the document. Here's what every politician has received in donations and from who.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Yeah, fuck them.
Fuck them all.
So yeah, the spaceman. Yeah, the thing about that though, what I find ridiculous, to go back to that, because we segued massively.
That was a segue. But that was like one back to the original topic.
To the original topic. What I think is mental about it, right, is that a government can send people into space through a private company and then have zero capacity or ability to deal with it if it goes wrong.
But these, not being funny, these flights or whatever to, is it still flying to space? I don't know, whatever the verb is to get there. I imagine it is flight, space shuttle, whatever.
Yeah.
Like they take so long to prep, and you're going through such a harsh environment that part of the thing is like you go up there and you know that there's a good chance you don't come back. Like there is.
Oh
nothing
yeah,
we
the
can
risks
do.
involved are mental.
But like, didn't Boeing?
But before, like NASA did shit. Do you know what I mean? Like there was, like they had their own shuttles, they had their own crafts. Whereas it seems like now it's all.
Yeah, it's all corporate.
Like it was Boeing.
It's all private.
It's now been passed to the white knight of the right, Elon Musk.
And he's still fucking around with it.
Yeah. And because he's now got the contract to rescue them.
But didn't Boeing like have a problem recently where like half their planes had a major proper fault in them?
Apparently, the plane they got sent up in, they did 2 test flights, both of which were unsuccessful. So yeah.
Yeah, you're asking for your own trouble.
And then the worst thing is they've gone, yeah, SpaceX has now got the contract to deal with it. Everything I've ever seen of SpaceX is their rockets exploding upon takeoff. So I was like, if these people are hoping to get home in February, I wouldn't keep my fingers crossed.
No, there was one video where it took off and then it came into land and it started doing that thing so it can land straight up and then it exploded. So they're getting somewhere.
Yeah, they're getting there slowly because I know basically what he wants because I've listened to him on Joe Rogan before. Because look, I thought before I found him fascinating because the image he tries to portray of himself is I'm this, like, the rumours were like when Iron Man, the first one, came out, he was what Tony Stark was loosely based on.
But he's not.
He's not that. That's the thing. He's not actually that. But that's sort of the image he wants to portray of himself. He's this cutting edge, funny, rich man that's like intelligent. And whereas I think he's just like, from what I've learned about him, he's borderline autistic, if not genuinely autistic.
He's neurodivergent.
Yeah, he's he's insanely rich, but he got that way through government subsidies, not through clever.
Well, he was
being a clever businessman.
He was insanely rich anyway. Because
he came from money, didn't he?
His dad's a South African blood diamond miner or something.
Oh yeah, that's not a good heritage to come
right. So he was already a multi-millionaire.
Because I know he was involved with PayPal at some stage, and that all went tits up for him.
Yeah, and then they got rid of him, and then he bought into Tesla. He
bought
into Tesla, and then. And then he bought Twitter because he decided it was funny because he said it would be 420.
Yeah, and then he tried to pull out, didn't he? And then the courts forced him.
So there's, I think that the finer details on that is when you make a purchase using shares, the share price has to be frozen to sell the shares. Because if I say to you, right, I've got 400 million shares and I want to buy the pod, right, and I'm going to pay for that using the shares.
Yeah.
The problem is the shares fluctuate every day, right? So that could go up, it could go down. So they have to freeze.
Financing.
Yeah, so they have to freeze it. So then you sell the shares at this frozen price that you have to sell it at.
Yeah. And was that Tesla stock?
So that's Tesla stock.
Okay.
So then they freeze it, but then after they've sold it, you've already sold it. So then
that devalues it immediately.
That devalues the Tesla stock. So then if you get to the point where you get to that stage, but then you pull out of the deal that you're buying for it, well, you've got £400 million that's sitting there that's no longer Tesla stock that you couldn't sold at that rate.
No, because no one would have paid that for it.
And your Tesla stock would have got halfway through it and then would have plummeted down. So it would have been worth anywhere as much. So then if you manage to find a way to back out,
he is clever technically. Then, isn't he? He finds wanky ways of making shitloads of money.
I think the reason he tried to pull out Twitter is he turned around and said it was something along the lines of they reckon that their statistics said that their percentages of bots on their platform was 8%, and he reckons it was more like 20, and then that therefore wasn't stipulated in advance.
I feel like there's more bots on Twitter now, if anything. And like it's just like I've curated my Twitter feed, I think, fairly well. But even for me, like almost every other day, I get a new follower, and it's always some form of porn bot or something like that,
or like Crypto Bro or something.
Yeah.
You know what I hate most now is that every time, and I don't like him and I want to block him, but like he always appears on my timeline.
Oh yeah, you can't stop him.
You can't stop him appearing.
No, he's apparently worked the algorithm so that his stuff gets seen more than anyone.
Well, yeah, of course, because he owns the algorithms. They probably said option one.
To be fair, if
display
I'd paid 40 billion for it, I'd have probably done the same thing.
But yeah, I think that was the finer details.
And
of
apparently,
how
it's now only worth 10% of that.
Well, yeah, because he's suing advertisers for like
for not advertising after fucking everything up.
Well, what do you expect people to do?
The thing is that one of the things he got criticised for, and I thought was a bit like I didn't understand, was that basically he cut shitloads of the people that work there.
Yeah,
and like it's quite clear that you don't actually need that many people to run Twitter. I'm sure some of the people did valuable jobs, and probably a lot of the moderators have gone. You could probably do with some of them back, but
I think that's what he did. He cut like 90% of the people, but then he cut like everyone, and then basically started apparently sitting down next to behind people, because this is when all the things were coming out on Twitter, and started doing stuff like.
Because didn't he walk in with like a sink or something?
Yeah, he walked in with a sink at one point because he's doing whatever he's doing. But he sat down with like lead engineers and basically went, right, show me your code, tell me how this works and why it works, and then was like trying to code like someone who's been coding their whole life doesn't know how to code, given that he's a billionaire who does nothing other than sit on boards. Like he knows how to code, and then he turned around and said a load of it was like bloatware. It was 90% bloatware, and it had to be redefined from the ground up. But it's great if you want to make these changes, but you can cut 90% of your staff. So who's the staff to make the changes that you want to make to overhaul the whole thing? It doesn't add up. Yeah. But he's just done what every billionaire does. They go in, they cut as much cost as possible, make it run as lean, maximize their profits, and then they rebuild from there. But he is just causing havoc. And I
think its days are numbered. Like there's other platforms coming up. I haven't actually joined them yet. I want to check one of them out, which was Threads, I think it was called.
Yeah, Threads is the Facebook version of Twitter.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of Facebook style stuff.
I'm pretty sure it's owned by Facebook.
See, the thing is, the platform itself, Twitter, I quite enjoy in terms of how it works and the dynamics of it, but it's a very aggressive place.
I don't know if Twitter will ever truly die, because I feel like Twitter, a bit like Google, has become... It's in itself.
It's part of like the public zeitgeist, and
it's just a word you use. I'm going to go Twitter, right? Like you Google something, you tweet something. It's to the point where it's part of that. It's in the fabric.
That's why his attempt to rebrand it is the most ridiculous part of it, because it's like no one was ever going to start calling it X.
But he's always wanted. He's had an obsession with X.com. Like he always wanted it to be called X. I think he wanted to rebrand. It was like that's why I think it's because isn't it X space or whatever it is. SpaceX.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
He wanted to call Twitter, not Twitter, Tesla.
So he obviously wanted to build an X brand.
Yeah, that's what he wants. A bit like the iPhone, Apple with the I. He wanted that, but for X.
Yeah. Yeah, and like weirdly, he's like under the thumb of Amanda Heard as well, apparently. Just by the by. Apparently he paid all her legal fees.
Yeah, probably.
What do you think of Johnny Depp?
They were that court thing was bizarre, and they were as bad as each other. I think that there's no smoke without fire, and they're as bad as each other. I don't think he's like a good person for the way he came out of it, but she's also awful.
I think fundamentally he's an alcoholic and a drug addict,
and he has problems. But
totally. But I got obsessed with it, and I watched the entire court case. There is actually no evidence that he ever laid a finger on her.
Yeah, right. I just think
there's actually
they're as bad as each other.
The opposite. Should 100%. Never have been together. There's some people you put them together and they're just toxic, and I think they match that perfectly.
Yeah.
Right, shall we talk some football?
Let's talk some football.
You're a Man United fan.
I am a Man United fan.
How are you feeling about Man United at the moment? They just lost to Liverpool.
Yeah.
And like they got fucking like Liverpool. Like when I watched it, and like poor Casemiro. I sort of almost felt sorry for him if it wasn't for the fact he was earning 350 grand a week.
He's had a 25% reduction.
Oh, that's generous.
Yeah, I know.
That's Oh, really? So because they're not in the Champions
League, you got 25% reduction, which fucking deserves.
How much is that? That's what, about 75 grand off, roughly?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Still,
but then
he's doing all right, isn't he?
But then is he on 300 now, and then it was 25% bigger or whatever? But
yeah,
I don't know. It's a weird time. You know, the club in general has been mismanaged for decades, and now we're sort of at a point. I think, in terms of like the club and then Erik ten Hag and whatever else, you sort of have to find where the line is between what is Erik solely in his job responsible for and what is just the shit show that's going on outside of it.
Yeah.
In terms of the club. So I like the fact that they brought in this whole new board above him, and the structure feels like it's there. And in terms of the actual signings they made in the window, I actually like a lot of the individual players.
Yeah.
But you're never going to fix decades of fucking around.
It's interesting with Man United for me because I can't quite understand what's quite wrong with the club, because on paper, I mean, until like recently, they haven't got as much money as they used to, but they have spent a ridiculous amount of money since Sir Alex Ferguson's left.
But where is that money?
Oh, it's been absolutely spunked up the wall, as Boris Johnson would say.
We bought Angel Di Maria for 68 million, sold him a year later for like 54.
Anthony 80 million.
Casemiro 70 million. Paul Pogba was 80 million. Yeah. Who else? Alexis Sanchez, that was a trade, but he was on 400 grand a week.
Yeah, that was insane. I think United paid like a chunk as well.
Yeah, when he left United and went to Inter, we were still paying 50% of his wages because he was on 400 grand a week. So like, of course he's gonna. He's not gonna leave. You know, Sancho's another one.
Yeah, that one's bad.
Aaron Wan-Bissaka for 50 million. Like,
yeah. I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka could have still had a place in the United squad personally. I genuinely believe, and obviously I'm a Palace fan, so I have my blinkers, but I think he even showed against Palace for West Ham that, like, I don't know what went wrong for him at United. I know his attacking play isn't the strongest, but in terms of defensively, I don't think there's a better right back out there in terms of one-on-one defending. There
isn't, but the problem is nowadays when you're at that top level,
you have to be able to
United
do both.
Want to be at that top level. Well, no, we're not there now, but like that's where they want to be. You have to be able to expect that someone will turn up. They're going to camp in sort of, you know, their 18 yards. And they're going to say, go on, then do us. And the problem is with Aaron Wan-Bissaka, because he's so bad and slow on the ball.
Did you see him for West Ham, though, in his first game? Like, immediately just, like, turning players, 1-2s, and, I think he was the pass before the assist for one of the goals.
But I think that's different, though, from when there's a bit more room and, like, the structure is there that they're not going to hit on you as much. Whereas if you look at like the United team in terms of like if you're playing against sort of a bottom half team, like if you're looking around and
he's not
like,
a possession player,
and you've got like Martinez and you've got Varane and you've got Delot, and then you look at Aaron Wan-Bissaka, you're gonna be like, well, every time he gets that ball, that's the trigger. We're gonna press him instantaneously. And like you just like jump on him, and he's great, 100%. He's like one of the best right backs out there for that one-on-one. The fact that he's like.
There's no one who rattles him. That's what I've always admired about him. Is no matter what attacker's running at him, he's like, yeah, I've got this. We're cool.
Doku in the final, in the FA Cup final, like you're talking about, like I think Sterling still has nightmares. And he was on form
at the time.
Yeah, and Sterling still has nightmares. I think Sterling's never scored against United, and that's probably because every time he played, he ended up against Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah,
but. You know, when you're talking about right, and a lot of modern football now is inverting fullbacks, and
he can't do that.
He can't do that. No. So, and the fact is, we sold him for like 17 million. We bought in
Mazraoui or whatever his name is
for less than him.
Yeah.
And he has been sensational since he came in. For the 3 games that he has played, he's been amazing. Like he's looked amazing.
But he's the opposite way around, isn't he? He's weaker in defence, but he's much stronger in attack.
But if you're trying to be this possession-based football, if you're trying to hold the ball for
you need players that are comfortable.
You have to hold the ball and generate those chances, and that's where they're sort of moving towards. But you know, this takes time. It's going to take more than one window. Now, whether or not Erik ten Hag is the answer for that,
I was going to ask that question because under Ten Hag, they've spent £596 million.
So is that the problem? Is
that's just on fees.
Yeah. So the problem is with this is the signings that are made, is that the manager's job or is that done by the board level?
I would argue because I would say only just before the window that you guys got the director of football in, Dan Ashworth, it would appear from the outside, from the moment Ten Hag has come in, most of the signings are Ten Hag players, aren't they? Lissandro Martinez.
Yeah.
I think he's worked with Mazraoui before.
Yeah, he
They've
was at
signed
Ajax.
Delict.
Yep.
You know, who else have you guys signed?
You've got Anthony.
Anthony again, one of his
Casemiro.
players. Casemiro, no.
He's worked before with Mason Mount. Mason Mount went on loan to Anderlecht, I want to say, and he was there at the same time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, and what I find difficult with Ten Hag is that at no point have I really... There's been a couple of games I can remember seeing where I was like, fuck, there was some play going on there. But in general, when I watch United, I don't ever feel like I'm seeing a style of football. Like, I feel like it's just a collection of like really good players that just don't mesh.
I think you the problem is when you say you're not seeing a style of football, are you seeing it, but it's just not what you expect to see? And like, you don't, because for at the moment when I watch them, and it's changed.
I just see them looking shit, if I'm being
No, I agree. I completely
so that's
agree.
where, like, yeah.
But I think last season,
And like Johnny Evans shouldn't be anywhere near a Man United team.
do you want to know something that's worse than that? Is he was probably one of our best centre backs last year.
Yeah.
But then that's the injury record has been horrendous.
Yeah.
Like in terms of players, I think Johnny Evans probably had some of the most. He played the most games at centre back, and he was literally kicking around, being like, "I might get 5."
Yeah.
And you're right, he shouldn't be anywhere near that. But I think that the problem is last season there was a definite thing of we're going to play basketball instead of football. It's going to be end to end. It's going to be transition. So we were giving away sort of 20 to 30 shots on goal per game, every game. And it didn't matter if you played Luton, it still gave away that sort of numbers. This year, and it's only been 3 games, and it's really early, you've seen a lot more of that sort of the shape of like a 3-1-6 in that dynamic. So you've got back threes, you have like Delit, Martinez, and then like one of the fullbacks, like Delo maybe will be sitting there. You probably have Casa, Miro as like the one, and then the other 6 players, the wingers, striker, Bruno, Mainu, and then one of the fullbacks will be pushing on, and that will try and pen the team in, so they're trying to rotate the ball through. The problem is when you start doing stuff like that, you're asking for intricate passing players. Does that suit a Rashford? Probably not.
No. I've always thought Rashford's a striker. In my opinion, I don't think he suits modern football. Yeah. Like, because I think 15 years ago, he's a Jermaine Defoe. He's someone you stick up front with someone bigger. He's going to get shitloads of goals.
And he's just going to run in behind constantly. And I sort of agree.
But I don't think he's lived up to it. But anyway, sorry.
I think he's been really unlucky. Like this start of this year, he's been very unlucky. I think that if, he could have quite easily right now had like a couple of goals and a few assists. Like if you think to first game of the season was, I'm trying to remember now.
I can't remember.
Whatever. First game of the season, he sets up. We win 1-0, but he literally gets up in front of the keeper, breaks the press. Garnacho's there. He slides it to Garnacho. It's a bit of a bad pass, but then Garnacho puts it wide. That could have easily been an assist. I think he set up a goal. He was also going to get the assist for the one against Brighton that ended up hitting Xerxes in the knee. And then there was a couple of chances that he had reset people up against Liverpool that could have got a goal. So he could have quite easily had a couple of assists. He could have had chances that hit the goal. And sometimes when you get luck, there's a lack of confidence. There's a lack of luck at the moment. If you've got a couple of assists and stuff, suddenly everything turns around and it's looking better. To turn around and say like, "Oh, it's not working. We've got to rip it up and start again." Then it's way too early now.
I think the only thing that concerns me though is like you see other managers, they come in, and not all managers, but even if I look at like Crystal Palace, Glasner comes in, and from the first week you can see what he's doing with the team. Do you know what I mean? And that's before you even know what the result's going to be. Like you can go, oh fuck, this is different. I see it. This is what he's doing. I don't feel like I've ever seen a consistent run of that with Ten Hag. Like I said, you'll see the odd moment where you're like, oh fuck, it can click a little bit. But
I feel like with him, it's been because it's been such a shit show above him in terms of the structure, in terms of what's going on. It's almost been like he's just like firefighting constantly and trying to fix problems.
I guess so. I just feel like he's been given his stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like he's been given players that should be able to step straight in and know, all right, this is what the boss wants. Do you know what I mean? this is how the system plays, this is how I work within the system. Like, they should already know that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But then I also think, like, you know, he walks in, he gets the Ronaldo problem, and then there's sort of the Jadon Sancho. He walks in and Mason
but he
Greenwood.
sort of created the Jadon Sancho issue, didn't he?
I think he's right.
What actually happened? Because they fell out, didn't they?
So it goes back to the same year as Cristiano Ronaldo had the fallout. Jadon Sancho is sent to Holland around Christmas for a few months.
He needed time off.
He needed time away.
Yeah.
He came back. He was starting to look good, but he didn't really play. He didn't really play that year. So then, start of the season, I think he started okay.
Because I remember Ten Hag calling him out, didn't he?
Well, how harsh is so there was, I think it was against, I want to say Arsenal. He wasn't in the squad.
Okay.
And it was early season, and basically he got asked why wasn't Jadon in the squad, and Ten Hag said basically along the lines of, he has not performed well enough in training, and like we expect a bit more, and that's why he's not in the squad.
Yeah, I remember that.
So then Jadon takes offence to that and puts a thing up on his.
Oh yeah, basically saying he's talking nonsense.
I have been trying hard, and it's all bollocks. So then, of course, like the manager goes, well, and I don't think there's a lot wrong with being like, we don't feel like he's done well enough in training and he needs to try hard.
You have that conversation privately though, rather than.
But I think you must know if you're not in the squad, you must have that conversation around it. Like, what do we want to do?
I don't know. Managers do sometimes just not like the look of a player, and they might not even communicate it with them, and just.
But I don't think for a player that you've bit the bullet, you sent him away for like 3 months at Christmas at your busiest time to help sort himself out. And we don't know what's going on.
No, I have no idea what even caused that.
But you don't do that to a player and then turn around and be like, I just don't like you. Because like, why would you do that?
No, that's fair. That's fair.
I think obviously whatever's happened with that, that's the nice bit. That's the carrot.
What looked bad though was the fact he then went to Dortmund and then went straight back to being Jadon Sancho.
He only had one good game.
Oh, didn't he get a few goals and assists?
He got a couple, not at the same, not
no,
at the same.
He looked
record.
like Jadon Sancho, didn't he?
More, and then he had that performance against PSG where he was like really good, and then did nothing in the final.
No, that's fair.
I just, you know, I think the hype generally is like, you know, and then you hear these rumors of like people had to put him with like Haaland so that they could make sure he got there on time, and like you have to babysit him so that he actually turns up. And like when Pogba was there and he was there as well, they had fines that the team did for people that turned up late, and the two worst for turning up late was them two. So like and this is a guy who's getting $200,000-300,000 a week, like, and I know money doesn't change it.
In terms of like attitude and application, I think all players at that level, particularly when you're earning that sort of money, there shouldn't ever need to be a question of your application or your commitment to the job. They're in an incredibly privileged position.
And I think at that stage, he could have quite easily, right, I think if he'd knocked up on the front door and gone, what's going wrong? What do you need me to do to perform at the level you expect? And they had that conversation. I think that would have been fine. But the fact that he put it online in the way he did, he refused, he never took it down. Yeah. It stayed up there for well after that point. Then he went on loan and whatever else, you know, and now he's gone. And I think it's just one of those. It's what could have been. I think
he's made a mistake going Chelsea, but I guess there wasn't anywhere else.
Yeah, well, he probably went, well, I want to prove myself in the Premier League. I've had two places that have.
Imagine he scores.
Probably will. But then if you're a player that's got obvious issues in terms of actually having the thing to go and the drive to go, and you rock up to Chelsea where there's like 8 people in your position.
Yeah.
How are you going to find that? I don't understand where you find that drive. Like, it doesn't.
No. The thing is, though, there's just some people you don't fuck around with, though, in there. Like, but then saying that, like, Alex Ferguson got rid of Pogba, didn't he? He let him go because he just didn't like the look of him.
And David Beckham was at the time probably one of the best players in the world.
But was getting a bit big for his boots.
And they moved him on. And I think at certain points you have to turn around and say, look, this is the time. And I think that's been the refreshing thing for that in particular, because Harry Maguire, who hasn't really been great because the style of football, again, a bit like Wan-Bissaka, it doesn't fit what we're trying to do.
I don't feel like he's a big team defender. Do you know what I mean?
Because he can't play on the halfway line, because he'll get pinned in a foot race and he's not quick enough to
keep up. And also,
I
don't feel like he's good enough on the ball.
Yeah, he plays really bad passes that
like
are
you
backwards.
Watch someone like John Stones and you're like, that's a Rolls Royce of a of a centre back. Do you know what I mean?
He winds me up. He dawdles on the ball and then he'll play it to the fullback, but he won't play it in front of the fullback. So the fullback plays forward. He'll play it to the goal side foot.
Yeah, behind him.
So then the fullback has to turn back and face the wrong way,
or
and then
hesitate to receive it,
or
then
got to spin on the turn. So it's all these little things where like it doesn't add up and
doesn't work.
Yeah, you're not playing the right way. But that's his style, and that's fine. I think he's a bit like a Robert Hoof in terms of you put him in the area.
He'd be great at West Ham. He was good at Leicester. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a level to these players.
He'd be great at like a Palace, like where you're expected a little bit more of like we'll defend the box and clear.
I don't think you'd suit our team.
But you know what I mean, like
sort of
down the table a little bit, where you're going to have more of those games.
So are you a Ten Hag supporter then? Would you say?
I am. Like, I think there's things that you can turn around and say. In terms of the Liverpool game, like, Castle was awful. He basically put on a Liverpool shirt. He was that bad. But, you know...
it was dreadful.
Ten Hag's tactics in terms of...
Every time you saw him in highlights, he was on the floor. It was him reaching for the ball.
But, like, Ten Hag's tactics in terms of, like, when Casa's losing it and he's in the middle of the back three, the fact that neither fullback are there because they've both bombed on... That is a problem that Ten Hag has done because that's his tactics to do.
Yeah.
That's a problem for me. If you're turning around and saying like, you know, well, you've signed Anthony for 80 million, I don't think he might want that player, but someone in the club who knows, who has the purse with all the coins in it has to say, and the scouting department and whatever else has to say that is not an 80 million pound man. Here's three other players.
There's an insanity to the money that's been spent on most players United have signed. Until the only one I think has been really reasonably priced is the Mazraoui one, like 15 million. You're like, yeah, cool.
What's it? Delot is he's like 40 million.
That's still a lot of money. Delot's not a £40 million player. Or he certainly wasn't at the time.
No, not Delot.
Delot?
Oh, Delit. That's it.
Oh, Delict.
No,
wasn't he about 50?
I think I think 50 million.
40 and
it was
rising.
50 million euros, 42 million pounds.
But again, like with players like that, I worry when a player hops big club to big club because I'm like, are they as good as...
But then I think Juventus sold him because they needed to cash out on some of their money. And then I think the Bayern fans basically wrote a petition playing, please do not sell him. And they had too many players. So I think we'll have to see what happens with time. But I think
you'd like to think
he's
having
a good player. He's got a lot of experience.
Under Ten Hag.
He's 24, a lot of experience. Even if it doesn't necessarily work out, you'll probably make 40 million back off of him.
Maybe.
Probably.
Maybe.
You'd hope it's going to work out.
Where do you think United are going to finish?
I think that if United finish 8th, Ten Hag goes. He can't do that again.
No.
I reckon it's probably going to be in the ballpark of 5th and 6th, in that ballpark.
I still think he should go if that happens, to be honest with you.
How much weight do you... If the football's getting better, how much weight do you have in terms of...
Yeah, that's a big if.
No, I know. I completely agree. How much weight do you have in terms of the fact that he's won the most trophies in the last 2 years outside
I thought that was really embarrassing to come out with, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but they all do it.
The general consensus... Yeah, no, look, I get why he said it, but I think when the general consensus is, mate, your team's been playing shit football since the moment you got here, like, to then sit there and go, I feel sorry for you. You know, I've won the most trophies after Man City. It's like, yeah, you have. But
I wouldn't agree that it's been playing shit football the whole time. I think there was the early part. I think he's played well. I will agree most. But
most of the time.
Problem is I don't know. The injuries were major last season.
I think the main thing that has to change is the money that United throw around. That can't, like, it's just stupid.
But I feel like they're doing better with it now.
Yeah, I think you could argue that. Like, we've gone from 80 million down to 40, 50. You know, that's reasonable.
And I also think the fact that they've turned around and...
I think the market in general is crazy, to be fair.
It's stupid money. But the fact that, you know, they sold Aaron Bissaka and bought a replacement in for less. They've managed to hook or by crook get rid of Sancho, who's not a player.
And McTominay as well. They got far more for McTominay.
30 million?
Honestly, I think he's a good player. Don't get me wrong.
Say that, but
he's not a 30 million. The thing is, I think in my head, I still look back to the days of like 30 million got you Berbatov.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like 30 million got you the creme de la creme of, like, that was the number, wasn't it, for most players?
Yeah,
like, you give us 30 million, you can have him.
him.
It was only like, it was Ronaldo that broke that, really, of like, Yeah, 80 million for him.
But then I think Fulham paid 34 million for Smith Rowe.
It's mental,
right?
Absolutely mental.
But then you're like, well, you can't get McTominay for 30 million. Who is it? He's
I
a
think
bit
Smith
older.
Rowe is better, but injury prone.
But in terms of like a midfielder who scores goals, he is a full-fledged international.
He can
for his
score
team.
goals.
He did.
He can.
I'm looking forward to when we play Brentford and we lose it, and everyone's going to say bring McTominay on. But I think
he's a decent player. Like again, he's like for me a West Ham, Crystal Palace level player. Do you know what I mean? That's the sort of.
I'm just glad Napoli loved him because that's nice to see.
Yeah. Brilliant. It was the same as when Conor Gallagher went out to Atletico and like there's a fucking packed out Madrid stadium.
Wild watching the Gallagher like saga.
And his face is just like, yeah, to be honest with you, I think Chelsea like they're even worse run than Man United.
I'm waiting for the bite. I'm waiting for the point in which Palmer, right? And I love him. He's a great player, I love him, right? But he's got a 9-year contract.
Yeah.
So what happens? So say like, we get a Roy Keane regen who like comes in and clamps him, right?
Yeah.
And you get an injury like he did to Haaland's dad.
Yeah.
And he can't play football. But he's on a 9-year contract.
And contracts for stuff like that, I believe. I think he'd get given a percentage and a handshake and
but if you
sent
are
on his way.
I don't really understand it from the agent's point of view. Why are they advising these people to sign these contracts? Because your wages are not going to be the same in 9 years. To be honest with you,
in modern football, contracts aren't really worth a lot, if you know what I mean. Like, it's very rare players or clubs force players to stay or players forcing themselves to stay. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't see it. You used to see it occasionally before. Like, I remember there was a famous one with Chelsea. They signed an African player, paid him $100,000 a week. Turned out he couldn't kick sand on a beach. And they were like, here's some money, fuck off. And he was like, no, mate, I'm all right. I've got $100,000 a week. I'm just going to
chill out.
And that's one of the most famous ones. But you don't really hear about that happening very often.
But I still think with Palmer, in terms of like, you've signed a 9-year deal, like you could easily get injured, but also he could never receive I know he's on a lot of money anyway, but like he could never get a better deal. And if Chelsea really want him to stay, they can. Like he will just spend the rest of his career.
Yeah, in theory they could, but I think like that's where stuff like the PFA get involved, and it's like if you're refusing to play, like there's certain criteria a club has to adhere to with their standards and behaviour towards a player, where if they don't adhere to those things, they can rip up the contract and they can move on. So I think there is some protection there. I think it's all to do with the way they're financing their deals. They're by having the 9-year contract.
Yeah, it's
whatever fee they which is mental, but apparently it's what all businesses do. Whatever purchase they make, they do that.
But I don't know.
And it also means, so like with the Enzo Fernandez or Caicedo spending 120 million, they get to put that across 8 years. But then also, if they sell him in 4, they get to write off the rest of it because they haven't spent it.
But because the problem is they're on such balmy numbers. I just don't see how they're making.
Eventually, it stops working.
Yeah,
eventually it stops working because Barcelona. I got abuse on Twitter from Barcelona fans when they first started pulling their levers and doing all of that.
In debt.
Yeah, they're fucked. It's 1.5. They're absolutely up shit's creek without a paddle, mate.
They're signing all these players, and then
but they can't register them. They've signed Dani Olmo, who they can't register. The last time I heard, they couldn't register him still.
No, I think they can now because I think that's why they got.
But
that's why Gundogan left.
They sold away something like 40% of their TV rights for the next 20 years. And it's like, well, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing you can. And Chelsea have fucked themselves. But the only thing you can hope for them and their fans is that the players they've signed, they can at least get some value out of when they sell them. But you're not going to get 100 million for Enzo Fernandez going forward. I haven't seen anything from Caicedo to make me think they'd get that sort of money from him.
The only thing I can think they're trying to do is they're signing all these different young players that are potentially will be, is that the hope that 1 or 2 of them are, and they sell them for big money and it makes all of the rest of it worth it.
I just don't see how they make that work though.
I don't think their manager does. He turned around and said he's only using 22 players in his squad. Like,
yeah, but I mean, he's just the reason they've signed a manager like him. And actually, to be fair, they don't look horrendous under him. To be fair, they had that really good game against Wolves, didn't they? Was it 6-2?
Yeah.
But he's not in charge manager. He's the we'll tell you what we're giving you and you're going to like it sort of manager. So
have to see what happens.
Yeah, I think we will. Yeah. And I think that's a pod, mate.
I
think we've done quite well. Thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure. I'm sure you'll be back on again soon.
When you're desperate. What?
Not desperate, but Jake's left me for a long time this time, Andrew.
It's okay. We can have cuddles.
Okay, that's fine. As soon as the cameras turn off. But guys, thank you for listening. Let us know what you think. Are United fucked or are they doing all right? Should Ten Hag stay or go? I think he should go, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Andrew's firmly in the Ten Hag in camp.
I'm not going to get into that.
But no, it's been a pleasure. Guys, you can check us out and it'll be here on the screen. Andrew Jester on the screen. You can find us on Facebook at Crossing Swords, Twitter at Sword Crossing, on Instagram and TikTok at CrossingSwords_podcast, and you can email us at CrossingSwords19@gmail.com.
Well done.
Thank you. I don't have Jake distracting me today. He loves, like, I'll be in the middle of doing it and he'll make a comment and I'm like, fuck off. But no, guys, thank you very much and we'll see you next time.